and welcome back to the final topic of the Pocket of Wisdom podcast for 2021. I'm your host, Deborah, and if you didn't already know, Pocket of Wisdom is a podcast where I invite God-loving people from different walks of life to share their wisdom, story, or topic of expertise. And today, we are going to unpack the topic entitled Navigating Quarter Life Struggles or Crisis. And joining me today is a special guest who shares the same name with me. So I first met Deborah Chan at a Revel Conference 2021, and I was really inspired by Deborah and Terence's story and the models that they introduced to bring change in community. And so after that conference, as I quote unquote stalked them professionally on their website and their blog, I was really inspired by how courageous they are to go through different transitions in life as young as they were. And when I got to read Deborah's book, I got to learn about how she found her calling at a young age through mission trips and when she was younger, which also led her to eventually quit her corporate job as well. So just to give everyone a little more context, back in 2014, Deborah took a huge leap of faith. She left the corporate world and uprooted her family to rural Cambodia, where she spent 2 years building literacy centers, training teachers and local leaders. And she also kickstarted a program entitled STORM. And today, Deborah is also the co-founder of 𝐸𝐸, an online platform dedicated to the impact industry. She is the author of Live to Last, a heart-gripping memoir that inspires others to step up and step out to make a difference. And she's also the host of a podcast entitled Here to Last. And Deborah today is married to her teenhood sweetheart, Terence, and together they are parents to Seth and Anya. So thank you so much, Deborah, for joining me today, for availing your time to be here on this podcast. So could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, like how you're doing recently, or even a fun fact that you like to share?
Right. Oh my gosh, that is a mouthful. What a generous introduction that was. Yeah, I mean it's amazing as even as you are doing that, kind of introducing what I do and a little bit about my life as well. I'm just reminded of God's faithfulness in my life. So a quick recap, outside of work, I married my best friend, Terence, and we have two kids, Seth, who is 8 years old, and Anya, who is now 5 years old, and they are really just the energy and enthusiasm and the crazy in our lives, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you ask me, introduce myself and how am I doing? I think all four of us have really not just survived the pandemic as we're coming out of it. Like on hindsight now, I don't think we've just survived the pandemic. I really feel, and I say this humbly, I feel like we have thrived in the pandemic.
Wow, that's
We've
amazing
made
to
the
hear.
most. Yeah, we've just made the most out of just having time together as a family. We've created various kind of new habits around the family where we have board games night and we have movie
Nice.
night. So we'll drag the mattresses over to our room and then, on Fridays, and then we'll watch a movie until late and they can stay up as long as they want. We've enjoyed kind of outdoor activities as well amidst the pandemic because obviously, number one, we're not shopping people. So
Right.
we don't go to shopping malls or rather if there's no reason to go into shopping malls. And so we've just kind of taken advantage of the fact that like all these high infectious places were not our thing anyways. And so we've taken the time during the pandemic to do more outdoor activities. We've done a bit of camping, a lot of hikes, and just really, like I said, enjoyed our family time together. Quick fun fact, let's see, a quick fun fact would be that I've stepped out of a flying plane at 22,000 feet and
That is
jumped
so cool.
out of it. Yeah. And it was during our honeymoon, quite a crazy thing to do right after
Get
I got
married.
married to my best friend. So yeah, that's the kind of like relationship or marriage that we have. I think it's adventurous, it's fun, it's great. And that's also, I think, maybe the thing that makes everything work, right? Because Terence and I, we share several businesses together. We do ministry together and we do life together. And I count it such a privilege to have that gift of marriage as well as relationships and family.
Wow, that is amazing. It's so nice to hear that you and your partner really have an active lifestyle together and you're really intentional about everything you do together, whether it's your family life, how you develop habits, or even how you do business together, or even how you have fun together, how you make time for one another. And that's really amazing to hear. So thank you, Deb, for giving us more insight into your life. And without further ado, let's unpack part one of navigating quarter life crisis, which I would like to call passion versus purpose. So, for those of you who participated in my survey, thank you so much. Together with Deborah, you're the reason why this podcast is made possible. And, let's get into it right now. Quarter life crisis, as what people term it, is a period where people go through uncertainty, questioning, or even intense soul searching during their mid-20s or even early 30s. And Deborah, one of the many reasons why I love your book is because aside from your adventurous stories, you have given the readers many practical life advice to live a life of legacy at different areas and stages of our lives. And also, in your recent episode of the Here to Last podcast, you shared two powerful perspectives to find meaning at work. And this really got me noticing that there are many people who are confused over the concept of a job, a calling, or passion and purpose. So I was wondering, what's your take on it and how would you classify it?
Yeah, I think, this question of what is my purpose in life constantly just, surfaces at different stages in our life, right? And I think it's a very important question to ask, not just in your late 20s or early 30s, but I think it's a question to be asked as young as when you're growing up, as a teen, right? To start unpacking some of those deep questions. And you may not have all the answers at one go. And I would say this, if I could just start with this, that finding your purpose in life is not a destination. Neither is it rocket science, right? So people make it so in a sense, quote unquote, complex, where, only certain people have found their purpose in life and they're walking in their purpose in life. But really, there's no rocket science, neither is there like a fixed formula to it. What it really is that when you find your purpose, there is a resonant click, right, with both your unique giftings and your interests, your passions, as well as your values in life. When all of that come together, you will know deep down within that you have arrived at something called purpose. But you don't just arrive, so it's not just a destination. It's almost like arriving, but then like let's grow in it. Right. So the challenge to all of us is to not just arrive or to reach our purpose in life, but to keep our eyes open so that we are constantly growing in our purpose in life and always constantly also like transitioning and changing, right? So your purpose may change over time depending on the different seasons in your life. I'll give you an example. Like at first I was a single. And then I got married, right? So my purpose as a single is also very different, right? I was called to reach out to my peers, maybe, right? Or I felt that I was more drawn to my peers. And then as a married couple, right, I felt like my life purpose, at least for the first few years of marriage, was to really devote myself and to make sure that I was growing and strengthening my marriage, right? Apart from everything else, apart from work and ministry and everything else, I felt like, my purpose purpose in that season was really to serve and to grow, serve my husband, as well as to grow together with my husband so that our marriage is strengthened. And then as I move on to motherhood, the purpose also changes as well, right? Then more business opportunities and ministry opportunities came along, and then the purpose evolved, right? So you're constantly growing in that. Maybe to make it a little bit clearer between, what is a job, what's a calling, what is a passion, and, and finally, what are your giftings? I think we owe it to ourselves to find clarity in life. You see, there are many people who kind of drift through life and then they don't find a place, or they don't find a season to kind of like question themselves, to do like deep thinking, right?
Yeah.
And when you don't make time for deep thinking and almost like reflection, right, your life, there is no clarity in life, right? And when there's no clarity, what does the Bible say? Without vision, people perish, right? And so we owe it to ourselves to find clarity. But as Christians, really, I think we owe it to ourselves, and we also owe it to God, because we are made for His purpose, and by purpose and for His purpose, right? It is written all over the Bible that we were created for Him, right? So we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to Him to find clarity in life. So again, going back to what's a job, right? I think it's plain. Let's not make it complex. A job is a job. A job pays you. It's your vocation. And many of us, our parents put us through school. We may or may not have a chance to kind of choose what degree we want to have, right? But at the end of the day, a vocation pays you, and a vocation actually sustains you, right? Financially and economically. It allows you to do all the other things, without which, right, without money, you will not be able to do. So that's very simple. A job is a job, right? Then what is your calling? I feel like this word calling again is sometimes like overemphasized or over complexed, if there's a word for it, right? But really, a calling is an expression of your identity and your values. What do I mean by that? You will only know your calling in life when you truly know who you are and who created you to be. That's why balik also I will ask people, like, do you actually know who you are? What is your identity, right? And as a Christian, we need to have our identity rooted in Christ. Amen. Who does God say I am, and who and how has He created me, and what does He say of my life? My identity needs to be deeply rooted in that. And then the values, right? What kind of values do we want to exude, right? Is it values of kindness, of love, of happiness, of peace, right? Of significance, or whatever it is? What are the values that hold dear to you? Is it of integrity and character, right? And so your calling is an expression of both your identity as well as your values. And then we move on to passions. I think many of us have a lot of interests, right? But interests may come and go, right? But passions really kind of just resonate with you, and it kind of sticks with you throughout. Again, it may change in terms of the intensity of those passions, but when you have identified what your passions are, you will be naturally very drawn to it. I love writing, and it started off with journal writing from when I was from when I was a teenager. I started writing, and I knew that it was both a gifting as well as a passion. I love kind of expressing myself in words and descriptions and text and everything else. And as I moved on in life, I realized that it didn't really change, right? My passions are still writing, but the outputs of it changes, right? So where I express myself, whether it's through a blog, is it an article, is it a podcast, is it a book, what is it, right? So that changes. So finding out what you're naturally just drawn towards and what your passions are is also very important towards finding your purpose in life. And then finally, your giftings. Your giftings are your talents and your skills, right? And it's quite funny to say that sometimes people don't even know what their giftings are. Whilst it's not a bad thing, I think if you don't know what your giftings are, or if you happen to be in a space where you say, gosh, I don't think I know what I'm good at. I really don't know. I don't think I'm good at anything. What I would say to you is, why don't you ask the people closest to you, right? What do you think I'm good at? Because sometimes what we are good at, or what we are naturally good at, we don't see because it comes so naturally, right? That
Yeah.
it's like it's so easy for us to do, but other people would be, for example, like you, Deb, it may be super easy for you just to speak in front of a mic, right? And like you don't have no issues with it whatsoever. The words just kind of flow. And but maybe for other people, it would take like many hours of just prepping and just mentally just preparing for it before you can stand in front of a mic and speak, right? So if you don't know what you're good at, or if you have no clue, or you want a confirmation of what you're good at and what your giftings are, start asking the people around you. Name me 2 things that you think I am good at. There are no giftings that are more important than the other. I feel that like people need to give value to all kinds of giftings because all of them have value.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and when everybody brings in their giftings, right, that's when the magic happens, right? That's where the unique giftings of everybody in the team, if you're working in a team and you can identify those giftings, that's when magic happens, when everybody brings together their giftings. So in short, what is your purpose in life, right? I think it's about marrying all of this 3 things that I've spoken about: your calling, your expression, and your identity, right? And then your passions. What are you drawn towards? What are your interest areas? And finally, your giftings. What are you naturally good at? And when you marry all 3 of them together, it almost comes to a center point where you start finding out, okay, this is my purpose sphere, and this is where I should start working and growing in it. Yeah.
Wow, that is so good. I think one of the key words that I'm hearing is that none of this is really a destination. It's really something you grow into. It's not something you find one day and then like that's it. I found it. I've received my aha moment for my life, and this is what I'm going to do until I grow old or something like that. It is. I think as what you said, our calling is an expression of our identity and our values, and as we grow, the more we experience life, I think we develop some more values as well as we go through different stages. And our skill set as we grow, our skill sets grow as well. And as we experience life, we also find out different passions. So what I'm hearing from you is the importance of stopping and doing reflection of what is important to you, or what passion you actually have. And I think you brought up a very um I think it's quite a common thing that Asians experience, I think, where they don't know what their gifting are, but I think partly is that they don't dare to acknowledge it because they feel like, oh, maybe I'm over proud or something. Maybe I'm just yeah, I'm overthinking this. And I mean, I'll be the first to admit that I was one of those people. For a long time, I'm like, I don't know what I'm good at. And people around me are like, are you silly? What are you doing? But yeah, I think what really helped, as what you said, is to gather the courage to ask the people around you, like, what are the giftings you see in me? And that's when I think you get a seed, something to work with, as what you said, because you still have to grow into it, right? It's not like you have it means you have it. Very few people have that, I think. And as you have just mentioned, that this is something that is really important for us to start asking ourselves when we're young. But I think the reality is, right, many of us, maybe we grew up not having the luxury of having opportunities to explore our passion, or perhaps we have not taken steps to discover it. And so sometimes, I think there are many people when they finish university, and maybe they even start working, but they just feel like, I really don't know what I'm passionate about. I'm just getting by day. And so from your experience, right, what are some ways that we can figure out our passion, even let's say if I want to start today?
Right. Definitely. I think, with the internet, you can literally just Google everything and anything up, right?
Yeah.
And it's both a blessing as well as a curse if you use it wrongly and you
Yeah.
get like too distracted, right? But I feel like it's more of an opportunity that we really have almost everything at our fingertips. So I would say this, like, we don't have any excuse to say that you can't discover your passions
Mm,
because it is right there, right? And there is also no excuse to say I don't know about a certain topic because everything
mm,
is Googleable, right?
yeah.
So what I would say to you is, like, check out even sites like Skillshare or Coursera, or other online e-learning online platforms, and find out a course that you can take, right? It's about exploring and expanding your horizon to just try and test everything, right? Before you come to a certain something, because I think your interests and your passions can be quite diverse in a sense. Like, it doesn't need to be only fixated on one certain thing. For example, like, oh, if it's writing, then all my passions have to be around writing, and
Yeah.
those kind of stuff. It can be very diverse because I think all of us are very unique, right, in that way.
Yeah.
That's one. Two is to actually try interning or volunteering in different organizations that you feel
Mm,
may be of interest to you. So I'll give you an example. Like, for example, if you are like an animal lover, right, and you know that you have pets, and you really really love kind of like wildlife and animals or whatever, then take the time to kind of volunteer in perhaps maybe a SPCA or other NGOs that have to deal with, like, animal welfare, right, and grow
mm,
that passion. What will happen is that as you expand and you explore, you'll find out two things, right? You may not nail down on, like, okay, this is my passion point and like I love this kind of thing. You may or you may not, right? But at least, even if you don't, you will know what you don't like.
yeah.
And from what you don't like, then you'll be able to craft out slowly what you eventually kind of like. You understand
Mm,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
Yeah. So it's not always like, oh, I know I love this. I know that I'm drawn to this interest. Sometimes that question is just maybe too difficult to answer, right? You just don't have a clue. But the starting point could be, I don't like this, right?
Yeah.
After volunteering at an animal welfare center, actually, I love my pets lah, but I don't think I want to do more than that, right?
Mhm.
So it could be something else, right, related to animal welfare, but maybe not volunteering. It could be maybe more admin work within a welfare organization or something like that. Yeah.
Wow, that is so good. I think the keyword is don't just think about it, like take a courageous step to test it out. And even if you don't like it, at least you know you don't like it, rather than sitting there and wondering, maybe, right? Is to just take the
Absolutely.
courageous step to just test it out. And it's okay, if it's you find out that you don't like it, that is just something else. And we got our whole lives to sort of discover it, right?
Yep. And I think what I would just like to add to that is
Mm-hmm.
that it's not wrong to not like something, right?
Mm,
It's
yeah.
it's actually better for you to have an opinion about something than not to have any opinion at all, and to kind of like shy away and say, I didn't try it because I think I don't like it. But have you actually tried it, right? So it's
Mm,
not wrong to have an opinion about something, and it's not wrong to have a say that I maybe I dislike this thing for during this period of my time. Maybe I can come back and try it again. But at least you have an opinion and you know where you stand. Yeah.
that is absolutely true. It's better to just know lah, to just have the knowledge of where your stand on it is.
Mm.
Yeah. All right. So now we can move on to the next question. So from the survey that I conducted, there are 37% of people who are either considering to change their job or that they kind of want to, but they're just scared to do so. So with that, right, what are some tips to help us decide whether to go for it or not?
Changing jobs. Okay. Well, maybe if I could just share my experience. I
Mm.
didn't just land on this, this current role as the co-founder of 𝐸𝐴 just like that. Obviously, it has taken a lot of transitions, a lot of trial and error, a lot of testing, right, to be where I am. I think everybody goes through that, right? As a fresh graduate, how many of us are working in the same line as we studied? I'm not sure, right? I think majority of people may dabble with like different things, and in the 21st century, with the advent of the fourth industrial revolution, I think a lot of us are also doing a lot of side hustles, right?
Yeah.
So we're doing a lot of things that are not just on a full-time job or full-time basis, but we're also dabbling with different things. My advice to you is, number one, don't be afraid of change. And I say this also as a reminder to myself as well, because I think many times we hold on to our full-time jobs and feel that that's a sense of security, that if I leave it, then what happens, right? I may not be able to get back the same job or the same benefits or whatever. I think it's great to think it through, and you should, right?
Yeah.
Especially if it involves financial commitments where you have to pay off loans and stuff like that. Definitely think about it. But what I'm saying is that I think it's okay if, let's say, if you're tied down to a job because of financial commitments, and that you have to stick to it, right? What I'll say is you make time for the exploration of other vocations or other interests. The word here is make time, right? Do you really want it? Like, do you really actually want to find out what you are passionate about or what you feel strongly about? And if you do, you will make time for it, of what is important to you, right?
Yeah.
So do that, right? Commit yourself fully to a full-time job, but at the same time, find avenues where you can kind of dabble with different skill sets, or meet different people, connect with different groups and things like that. To your question about, let's say if you're financially okay and you want to kind of move careers and shift careers, I think there are a few questions that you really should ask yourself, right? Ask yourself, what kind of impact do you want to make, right? So if this job is not right for you, or you feel that it's not the right fit for you, why is it not the right fit? Is it because your gifts and your talents are not being utilized, and you feel that you can give a lot more? So then what is the a lot more that you can give, right? Identify it and list them down. Number two is, what do you feel, which areas, or which sectors, or which communities or industries do you think you can give back most to? It could be, if you're a doctor, it could be the medical line, but maybe in a different kind of, different way, right? It could be in a clinic, or, in a hospital or whatever. Like there are different kind of like channels for you to give back, right? Ask yourself, like, where do you actually want to contribute back to, right? I think that's very, very important. And then start searching, right? Start searching for different avenues where you can write to them, kind of share, like, I would like to contribute my time, or, if there is a job position that is available, try it out, right? You wouldn't know. So my personal story was this, like I actually graduated with a Bachelor of Comms and majoring in journalism and cultural studies. I knew for sure that I wanted to write. That was definitely something that I, wanted to do from even a young age, and I wanted to make it a career. But I was also very sure that I do not want to go into the media line, which is the mainstream media, newspapers and all. Yeah, I knew it from a very start, because of some observations of friends who were in mainstream media, and they just looking at their lives, I knew that was not the life that I wanted to live. Going back to the office at 3 a.m. just to churn out an article. I mean, it's for some people, but I knew it wasn't for me, right? So I knew for sure that it was something that I don't want to do, but I still want to write. And I was passionate about building people, right? Like building them in terms of like either soft skills or building them in character, and so forth, or leadership skills or whatever. So my first job was actually with a soft skills consultancy, and I worked there for about 2 years. Found great fulfillment in it, but then as I moved along, I also changed a few jobs for various reasons. It was, a career kind of advancement kind of thing.
Right.
And then I came to a point where I was growing in my career and I was growing as a professional in both soft skills consultancy, but I really wanted to find something that gave back to people. Not that I wasn't giving back to people. I just felt like, oh, if I could do something with a larger vision or be attached to a company with a larger vision, that would be great, right? So it was also a time of transition for me. It's like, okay, I know kind of like where I want to be, or what kind of job I want to get into, but I don't really know which company is the right fit for me, right? And so what I did was, as I was working in that full-time job at that time, I was writing to several NGOs, different NGOs, anywhere from World Vision to SPCA. There was like a whole list of them. I was just like kind of like just emailing and emailing them and then cold calling them as well. But nothing came through until 6 months later, a social enterprise contacted me, right? And that was my first break into the world of sustainability, right? And so my career then took a shift and took a turn. What I realized was that I kind of thought I would be in the NGO space, but then as I was emailing all these NGOs and organizations, right? What I realized that was that I didn't know that there was this social enterprise space, right? That was existent at that time. And as I was kind of introduced to the social enterprise space, I realized that, hey, I actually can make a career out of creating impact for people. So sustainability, in short, is basically ensuring that companies are actually responsible in all their practices, their operations, environmentally responsible, socially responsible, and so forth, right? And so I was thrown into this space, and I kind of like grew in that career. Long story short, I think what I really want to get at with this question is take that leap of faith and try it out, right? Try writing to people, try connecting with people from different networks. You don't know what you'll get out of it. The conversations that you start, kind of snowballing might lead you to a revelation of its own, right? You may have a thought about what you want or you think you want, right? But as you're talking to different people in different networks and in different industries, I think that shape and that form of what you desire might kind of, it might change, and it also will bring a lot more clarity to your next steps.
Wow. I love hearing how you said right from the very start that your passion is writing, but it doesn't mean that, my passion is writing means I become a writer or I become a copywriter and that's it, It's not just a straight road like that. But as you talk to different people, you start to realize how you can match your different passions together to form something that you can make a career out of as well. It reminds me of like the Pixar movie Soul as well, where the guy he's passionate about piano, and he so the first thing that comes to his mind is, oh, I need to be a professional pianist, and if I can just play on that stage, and I'll be so happy, I would have made it. But through the process of him discovering that, we learned that, hey, he's actually a pretty good teacher, and students actually enjoy learning so much from him. And when he, I think towards the end of the movie, we recognize that, hey, he can match his passion for piano and his gift to be able to teach. And he found that, I think maybe my where I need to be right now is to be with students, and I can use both. I can use my gift of teaching as well as my love for playing the piano. And yeah, it's just really great to know that it's not 1 + 1 = 2. That's it. It is something that you gradually learn as the keyword here is take a leap of faith and just talk and expose yourself to different people as well. So yeah, thank you for those great tips, Deborah. And so now I'm also wondering, right, as we come to our final question, there are some people who they know what their passion are, and but they chose to stay in their industry or their current career choice because the truth for them is that their passion doesn't pay well, because as you have said earlier, we have debts to pay, so we have to have a job that pays. So for those people who are staying in their current job that pays, but they just feel really unfulfilled, because they could not choose passion due to their financial constraint, what would be your advice to them?
Yeah. I would say, the fulfillment of your job and your life does not come just with finding your passion and having your passion pay your bills, because in reality, not many people will have their passions as well as their vocational jobs kind of align and be able to pay the bills and lead a certain lifestyle, right? The reality of it is that not many people will reach that point, right? You are super blessed if you are in that space, and it really is a gift to you. But most people will have a job, a vocation, right, that pays the bills, and then dabble with other stuff outside of your work. But your commitment is to your employer, or if you're running a business or whatever, right? That commitment has to stay true, just so that you can, you'll be able to feed your family and so on and so forth, right? But what I'll say to you is this: that begin to find meaning in your day-to-day job, your 9 to 5 job, right? So if you are, if let's say if you're an insurance agent, right, and you absolutely just dread waking up every morning, calling your clients, finding new clients, meeting your quotas, right? Then ask yourself, why are you doing what you're doing? Is it because it's just a job that pays you well? If it is, can you do something else that will be able to pay you the same amount, but you will like a lot better than what you dislike now, right? And the second thing is this: if you really dislike it, change your perspective about it, right? So what is it that you don't like, that is perhaps maybe kind of dragging your feet along as you wake up in the morning? What's dragging your feet? Is it because maybe your personality is not about reaching quotas, right? Maybe your personality is really more of like connecting with people and stuff like that, and when there is a quota that is given to you, then you feel very pressured about it, right? So identifying those things, and then the second thing is maybe having a talk with your boss about it, right? And is there a way to kind of change up your job scope, and things like that? And then finally is finding that meaning as maybe an insurance agent, right? What's that deeper meaning behind your 9 to 5 job? Is it just so that people will be able to pay for their insurance every month so that you get a cut from it and then it pays for your bills? Or really is it about giving protection to families so that they don't end up in debt? And for me, that's like incredibly meaningful, right? If you're an insurance agent and you're doing that and you're providing protection as well as financial safety nets for people, I think that's incredibly meaningful. So I think it is about finding out the deeper meaning behind your 9 to 5 kind of grind, and when you find that deeper meaning, which is your why, I think it will give you greater fulfillment and greater joy in what you're doing, whatever it may be, right? Whether it is a front-facing job, or a customer-facing job, or maybe you're working behind the scenes, whatever it may be, there's always meaning in your work.
Yeah, that is wonderful. And I think you brought up a very important point that it's really just a matter of perspective because every job, wherever you're at, whichever industry you're in, you're a solution provider. You are providing a solution to a problem. And there is meaning in that. You are, at the end of the day, helping someone with something. And if we could just take a moment to appreciate what the solution that we can bring to people even within our job, and as what you said, identify what is dragging your feet and see what you can do about that. Like maybe switching job may not be the best option, but if you can identify the little thing that is probably annoying you, then maybe you could change just that, and maybe it will feel a lot lighter wherever we are, right? Wow, so that is really, really great practical advice. Thank you so much, Deborah, for sharing so candidly about passion, about purpose, as we navigate through our quarter life struggles. And I hope that you, as a listener, have gotten more direction or even more assurance of the next step that you need to take. But guess what? We are not done with this topic. So come back in 2 weeks for part 2 of Navigating Quarter Life Crisis, where we will talk about transition and the big word, knowing God's will. So with that, remember everyone that you have a pocket of wisdom to offer, and take care, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.
Bye.